There we go.
It's good to be with you. Thank you for having me. You've been talking about marijuana, so I brought my backup in case you want to talk about it.
Well, I mean,
but I'm here to talk about other things too.
We can talk about anything you want to.
It's your show, man. We'll go whatever direction you want to go.
Let's get the marijuana thing out. Let's get the biggest thing. The Sheriff Roundtable was with us the other day of this week, and we were talking about the law enforcement being written out of this.
Right.
The Commissioner of Agriculture addressed that a few moments ago. Lee, what's the story on that one, and why was it put in there? Explain exactly why the law enforcement people were written out to where they could not uphold the laws of the land.
Paul, that's not what it does.
Okay.
We've made an exception to federal law by allowing a medical marijuana program in this bill to be operated within our state boundaries. And so what we were doing was making sure that law enforcement also made an exception to federal law with regard only to that medical marijuana program within the boundaries of what we've written in the law. And if you look at that Section 5, and let me say this before I explain this, I have been working with my sheriff, Brian Bailey, since June. I have his request to me from June the 25th, been talking to him. And he was with the sheriffs at the convention down on the coast this summer, and he said in front of 55 sheriffs, this medical marijuana thing is coming, and we need to get on top of it. And he said there were just crickets in the room. Nobody said a word. So everybody's had a chance. I've been working with my sheriff since this started, since I've been involved, and here's his request, and most of these things are in the bill, if not stronger than what he asked for. But what we have here in Section 5, subsection 5 of Section 5, is model language that was designed for them not to enforce the federal law. It says, no law enforcement officer shall expend any state or local resources, including their time, to effect any arrest or seizure of medical cannabis or conduct any investigation on the sole basis of activity that the officer believes to constitute a violation of federal law if the officer has reason to believe that such activity is in compliance with this chapter. And so only people that are...
All right. So basically what it says is we have the law enforcement agencies overlook the fact that it's a federal offense.
Just like they do in 38 other states.
But I mean, basically that's it.
Columbia and 3 U.S. territories.
So we're writing that in the law for the local law enforcement agencies to do that.
And they can still enforce every other drug law. And we've even added penalties for violating our law in addition to the other violations.
So the changes made as far as the Commissioner of Agriculture is concerned was to put him in charge of the enforcement, almost like the health department as far as restaurants concerned?
So, yes, he's got the inspection, the regulation, and the enforcement. He does not have the licensing anymore, but he will go in and he will make sure that they are doing things by the book and go through a checklist and make sure that they're not cutting corners. They'll have access to the seed-to-sale tracking program. They'll make sure there are no extra plants being grown. There are no extra products being shipped out the back door. I mean, all of that is very tightly regulated within the bill.
Have you guys looked at what Oklahoma has a problem of overproduction? And I don't know if that's because that's been a pretty big story in some locations where they've...
Oklahoma is the wild, wild west. Our bill is not Oklahoma's bill.
Yeah, they have produced so much, and I'm not sure exactly what's happening to it. I think that's one of the big stories out there. Do we have, I know within this bill, we do have some mechanisms for the incineration.
Absolutely.
Of it,
disposal, destruction.
Disposal,
there are businesses being created that simply do that, disposal and destruction. And every plant, every seed that grows into a plant, every part of a plant that's made into a product, it will be tracked from the time it's a seed to the time that it is sold to a qualified patient or designated caregiver or destroyed. It will be followed the entire way.
Yeah. So you're happy with the bill as it is, and apparently members of the Senate is the same way on this.
We're happy with the way it is, but we do want our law enforcement to be satisfied, and we don't want them to feel like they have handcuffs on when it comes to enforcing marijuana laws. We want them to enforce marijuana laws.
Well, that was the word that they had not had a seat at the table yesterday or this week when they were on.
Well, my sheriff's had a seat at the table since June.
I'm not going to get between you. I'm just telling you exactly what they said. Any response to that, Mr. Speaker?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you Mr. Gallo, for letting us come on and clarify that. I
appreciate it.
Secondly, I want to thank Lee for his hard work on this bill. We did hear the sheriffs, the three that you had on the other day. I like all three of those guys, and I know they're hard-working and do a great job, but there were some things that were said that we felt like needed to be clarified. And so Lee has kindly agreed to come today to address some of those things. I agree with his statement that everybody has known this was coming for some time. Anybody who wanted to have input clearly could have notified us. And, of course, as Lee said, he has worked with his sheriff. I think there's been opportunities to have input. This bill is ready. We have notified the governor that the House and Senate are on the page, same page, and
so what do you think the holdup is as far as
I have no idea, but we're moving on to other things.
He hasn't.
I've not heard anything.
He hasn't said anything about the objections to either you or the Lieutenant Governor.
We provided a copy. Well, it's my recollection that the word was that when we got to an agreement, a special session would be called. We've been in an agreement for over a month now. We notified the governor. He wanted to see the bill. We gladly gave him a copy of the bill. He kept it for about a week. Then he responded with about 6 or 8 things he wanted to see changed. We made all those changes except one, and then that's where it sits.
I got you.
And so there are other issues that we got to move our attentions toward. Bottom line is the legislature's ready to go.
All right.
And
I need to ask one more question to Lee as far as the excise tax. In the final draft here that's going to be debated, where's that?
So the excise tax is at 5%.
5%.
Charged at the cultivation and the processing level.
And both the House and Senate are in agreement with that?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Anything else?
No, sir. Let's talk about...
have you seen the numbers for October since this is the 28th?
The revenue numbers?
Yeah, revenue numbers.
I have not. I've not seen them yet. Usually we get a report about 5 days before the end of the month, and I'm sure they exist. I just haven't seen them.
As far as we know, nobody's indicating if they're up or down or what they look like. As far as October
I'm sure they're up. Yeah. I have not received a word, but each month we seem to be doing better and better, and so I'm assuming that they're up. But I can't